Okay, part 6, here we are. So we know now that Enoch went to go speak to the Watchers, aka the fallen angels, and told God that God is not happy with you and you guys are in big trouble. This is what they say. They besought me, Enoch's talking, to draw up a petition for them that they may find forgiveness and to read their petition in the presence of the Lord of heaven. So these fallen angels, the Watchers, are asking Enoch, like, hey, please go on our behalf and talk to God for us. Like, please. It says because they were not allowed or able to speak to him, God, or lift their eyes to heaven because of all of their sins. So Enoch was like, all right, he wrote out their petition and took their prayers in regard to everything they said, and then he went off. Enoch went to the land of Dan, which they say is the south of the west of Hermon, and read their petition until he fell asleep. Why? Because it was boring. Why was it boring? Because they're liars. They knew what they were doing, and now they want to ask for forgiveness? Okay, whatever. Point is, he fell asleep. When he fell asleep, he had a dream. What did the dream say? The dream he had was of a voice telling him to go to the fallen angels and reprimand them. And so that's exactly what he did. He said he went back and they were in between Lebanon and Sennacer. They were weeping with their faces covered. And Enoch told them, like, you're condemned. You are going to be reprimanded, all these things. And so this is how we end chapter 4. Let's get into chapter 5. So in chapter 5, Enoch is just kind of thinking back on everything that happens. And he says in verse 2, what I will now say with a tongue of flesh and with the breath of my mouth, which the Great One, this is what he referred to God, the Great One has given to men to converse with and understand with the heart. So I stopped here for a second because he made this very clear that with his own tongue of flesh, right, his natural mouth and with his breath of his mouth. So he says, God gave us this for us to speak and to understand this with the heart. So interesting, because how many times does somebody say something and their words are something, but you feel something else, right? And so I just found that to be a very interesting verse. I just want to point that out, that we should be listening with our hearts, not just our ears when someone speaks, so we can really get the true intention of what they're saying. He says that God has given people, the power of understanding the word of wisdom, and God gave Enoch the power to reprimand the Watchers. What does that say? When the Creator, God, Yahweh, whatever, gives you a message, go with it and know that not even fallen can get against you. Okay, so part 7, you're going to love this. This is the part he starts describing what heaven really looks like. So right now, he's kind of hammering in the idea to these fallen angels, like, you cannot pass go, right? You're not collecting any money. He tells them, I wrote out your petition, but in my vision, none of this is going to happen for you. You're going to have to watch the destruction of your sons, which again were the giants that were born by the women. And he then starts telling them about a vision that he had. He says, and this is chapter 5, verse 8, he says, in the vision, clouds invited me and a mist summoned me, and the course of the stars and the lightnings sped and hastened me, and the winds in the vision caused me to fly and lifted me upward and bore me into heaven. Okay, so this is how he got all this information from heaven. As he's saying, it was in like a vision, and all of these elements of nature, clouds, mists, thunder, I don't think he says thunder, lightning, carried him up, and then now he is in heaven. So let's continue. So what is this? Is this astral projection? I don't know. He says, I went to a wall which was built of crystals and surrounded by tongues of fire, and it frightened me. He said he went to a large house which was also built of crystals, and that the walls of the house were like a tessellated floor made of crystals, and the groundwork was also crystals. So they are up there living fancy. It says the ceiling of the house was a path of stars and lightning, and between the stars and the lightning there were fiery cherubims. And I'm like, cherubims, the little angel things, the little, cupids. And so the heaven was also made of water. It says that a flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its portals blazed with fire. Oh, we're getting into portals now? Yeah, let's get into portals. He said, I entered into that house, and it was hot as fire and cold as ice. There were no delights of life inside. Fear covered me, and trembling got a hold of me. I thought we were living nicely. What is this now? I don't know. Let's find out. Verse 14, as I quaked and trembled, I fell upon my face, and behold, another vision. There was a second house, bigger than the first one, and the entire portal, that word portal again, stood open before me. It was built of flames and fire. He says, in every respect, it was so excellent in splendor and magnificent that it cannot describe it. So let's see what happens next. Follow along. Okay, so part 8, he's continuing to describe this second house that he's looking at, the larger one. Same thing, floors made of fire, lightning on the ceiling. But he says that there was a lofty throne that was made of crystals, and the wheels were of shining suns, and there were more cherubims. He looked under the throne, and there were streams of flaming fire, and he couldn't look at it anymore. He realized that the great glory, that's the name, the great glory sat on it, and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and it was whiter than any snow. Yo, was he talking about God right now? He has to be, right? Let's keep reading. Verse 19 says, none of the angels could enter or behold his face by reason of the magnificence and glory, and no flesh could behold him. We are talking about God. The flaming fire was around him, and great fire stood before him, and none around could draw near him. 10,000 times 10,000 were before him, yet he needed no counselor. Verse 21, the most holy ones were near him. They did not leave him by night nor depart from him. And until then, I had been on my face, trembling, and the Lord called me with his own mouth and said, come hither, Enoch, and hear my word. So one of the holy ones came to me and waked me and made me rise up and approach the door, and I bowed my face downward. Take me to the king. He said to me, fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice. He said, go to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee to intercede for them. Tell them, you should intercede for men, not men interceding for you. Ye have left the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth, and begotten giants as your sons. So God is actually disappointed at the fact that these angels, these watchers, sent a man on their behalf to talk to him, when it was their job to go on behalf of men and intercede for them. God continued his message for the fallen angels, saying, you were holy, you were spiritual, you were living the eternal life, but you defiled yourselves with the blood of women. I gave these women to the men so the men could impregnate them, so that they didn't have to want for anything on earth. Follow along. Hey, so welcome back. We are in part 9, and God is laying it out to the fallen angels what's happening. Okay, so he also continues on to say, now the giants, again, these were the ones that were born from, the watchers and the human women. So the giants who were produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies because they are born from men, and from the watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on earth. Evil spirits shall they be called. Continuing. Again, this is chapter 5. Right now we're in verse 30. The spirits of the giants will afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth and cause trouble. They will not take any food, but they will hunger and thirst and cause offenses. These spirits shall rise up against the children of men and against the women, because they have proceeded from them. That's us, right? These evil spirits are going to rise up against people of humanity. Now, this part is important. It's verse 32. From the days of the slaughter and destruction and death of the giants, from the souls of whose flesh the spirit have gone forth, they shall destroy without incurring any judgment. Think about that. That means they can do whatever. These evil spirits from God is saying they have full reign to do whatever they want to do, and they will not incur judgment. Thus shall they destroy until the day of consummation, the great judgment, in which the age shall be consummated over the watchers and the godless, yea, shall be wholly consummated. So what does that mean? People always ask, like, why do bad things happen? Why does God allow it? Why? Well, it's being told here right now that he's giving them all this time to do whatever it is they want to do. And he described all the things that they were going to do: oppress, destroy, afflict, bring battle against us. And they're able, and they're allowed, right? They're allowed in this universal law. They're allowed to do whatever they want to do until the day of judgment, which we don't believe has come about yet. Now, God has one last piece of information for these watchers, the fallen. He says, you have been in heaven, but all the mysteries were not even revealed to you. The ones you knew were worthless. And those are the ones that you took and shown the women through the hardness of your own heart. And now they've done evil on earth. And he ends chapter 5 with one verse. It says, you will have no peace. So God is basically like, you guys thought you knew all the secrets and brought it to the earth? Yeah, you didn't. Anyway, you screwed yourself. Next chapter. Okay, so part 10 starts off with the very beginning of chapter 6, verse 1. Enoch talks about the angels took him and brought him to a place, and he's going to start to describe his place. So let's listen. He said, in that place there were those who looked like flaming fire, but when they wanted to, they could appear as men. So they're shape-shifting up here. Okay, cool. Let's continue on. He said he saw the place of the luminaries. Luminaries are something that illuminates, like the sun, the moon, the stars. He discusses looking at the stars and then seeing a fiery bow and arrows. Then he says he was taken to the living waters and to the fire of the west. He said the fire of the west receives every setting of the sun. Very interesting wording. Verse 5, I came to a river of fire in which the fire flows like water and discharges itself into the great sea towards the west. I saw all the mouths of the rivers. I saw the treasures of the wind, and I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I saw the four winds which bear the firmament of the heaven. Flat earthers have entered the chat. Okay, all jokes aside, but seriously though, so firmament, you can look up this word. It's like, it creates a dome-like shape, right? And so he's saying that he saw four winds. So if you can imagine, like, winds, whatever, creating this globe type of effect, this dome over Earth. And that is what kind of insulates and keeps the atmosphere in. Very similar to what you see, like a snow globe. I saw at the end of earth the firmament of the heaven above, and I proceeded and saw a place which burns day and night, where there are 7 mountains of magnificent stones. There were 3 mountains to the east, and they were colored. One was of pearl, one was of jacinth, and those towards the south of red stone. The middle mountain reached to heaven like the throne of God of alabaster, and the summit of the throne was of sapphire. He says, I saw a flaming fire, and beyond these mountains is a region, the end of the great earth. There the heavens were completed. Now beyond that I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water, there were no birds. It was a waste, a horrible place. He said, I saw 7 stars like great burning mountains, and I inquired about it. The angel said, this place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. Prison for the stars? We're imprisoning stars now? Let's keep reading. But wait, also prison for the host of heaven? Let's dive into this in the next section.